Hey there, welcome to Old School Sports Parenting. Today is going to be a third video in our series about recruiting and college scholarship offers. In the first two, we covered how that recruiting process works and kind of how to navigate your way through it. I want to be a little bit more specific in this third video about how to get your kid noticed by college recruiters. So, let's get into that. Once you and your son or daughter have worked with the coach to identify, with your high school coach to identify appropriate colleges to target, you should prepare maybe compile is a better word. Compile a video consisting of game highlights and full games, one or two full games. These videos don't have to be fancy. Recruiters know you're not George Lucas, so skip all the fancy bells and whistles and music and stuff. Recruiters honestly could not care less about that stuff, and more often than not, they're distracting and they make you look desperate. So just stick to the sport itself. You want to get 15 or 20 minutes worth of highlight plays and put the best plays up front. And then maybe a full game or two. Recruiters like to see that because they like to know that your kid does not take plays off in the middle of a game. You can post these once you get this thing compiled. You want to post it up on YouTube or even on Huddle, which is, just to oversimplify it a bit, it's a YouTube type of channel that's specifically for athletes and coaches. Huddle, HUDL. Plenty of information online about it. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Just make sure that your kid's name and uniform number are visible on the video, as well as your coach's name and contact information for him or her. Recruiters can talk to coaches at any time of the year, but they can't talk to kids. They're restricted on times that they can talk to kids. So, and your coach, of course, can notify recruiters, especially those that are interested in your kid, about where to find the videos, or you can just email a link to them as well. Quick bit of housekeeping. If you're targeting scholarship schools, Division I or Division II schools, make sure your child is registered with the NCAA clearinghouse. And again, this is something that your coach will be able to help with. You can promote your son or daughter to whatever schools you want. They don't necessarily have to be schools that your coach has suggested are the more appropriate ones. Just make sure you keep good records of who you promote to and the names of the coaches. Speaking of which, don't just send your kid's video to an athletic department. Go online and find out, if you can find out what coach on their staff handles recruiting in your region, you want to send it to that person. If not, at least target the coach who coaches the position that your child plays. If your child's a third baseman, maybe an infield coach or a left side of the infield coach on a baseball team is where you want to send it. You don't want to just send it at random, because that kind of stuff just gets lost in the mix. Okay, let's get into this dead period a little bit. If recruiters don't call your coach about your kid, you try to find out whether it makes sense for you to contact them instead. There are times, and this is when recruiters aren't allowed to call your kid at all, talk to them at all, and these are called dead periods. If you're trying to reach a recruiter or hoping that they will call your kid and it's a dead period, it's a fruitless effort. You're never gonna hear from them, and don't be discouraged about that. Just understand that there are times of the year when they're not allowed to do that. If all of this sounds like a big job for your kid's coach, it is. People go into coaching because they love teaching kids stuff and seeing them succeed on the field. Dealing with the recruiting process and with parents and their expectations adds a whole level of frustration and complexity to the job. You can, to an already stressful job, actually, you can make this less stressful for the coach by making sure your son or daughter is a student athlete that the coach sincerely wants to promote to colleges. How do you do that? Well, for starters, make sure that your kid is a good teammate and is a coachable player. Make sure he's also a respected, or at least respectful, member of the local community, the town that you're in, or whatever. The further he or she strays from these kind of character traits, the harder it's going to be for the high school coach to talk highly about him to recruiters. Character does count in this process. Another way to promote your child is colleges themselves have websites specifically for recruiting. So usually they'll have questionnaires on there, and you can fill those out and submit them online anytime you want. It's also not a bad idea to look into some out of school athletic activities, camps and tournament teams and things like that. Your coach may be able to recommend some of these, but you want to be careful, because there are some of them, thinking like AAU basketball, for example, that ruffle the feathers of high school coaches. You try to rise above these kind of turf battles if you can. But the bottom line is anything you can do to help your child continue to hone their skills and their competitiveness and give them a chance to be seen by college recruiters is worth looking into. If your kid is truly a scholarship athlete, then I can pretty much promise you that he or she is going to get some kinds of offers. Actually, a better way to put it probably is the reverse of what I just said. If your child starts to get scholarship offers, that's a good indication they are a scholarship level athlete. If they're not, they probably aren't. But assuming they are, keep in mind the offers may not always come from schools at the highest level or at a high level that your kid would like to be playing at. As I mentioned in the last video, second video in this series, that schools rarely land 100% of their first recruits. Your kid might start off as a second tier or even third tier recruit at a particular position, but as the process goes along, sometimes the first offers that go out to kids don't pan out. The coaching staff's got to come back and look at, okay, who was number 2 on our list for this particular position? So you just want to hang in there and make sure you're promoting as much as possible, but also you can't get overly discouraged. It's a long, drawn out, very frustrating process at times. But once a few schools start offering your child scholarships, you're kind of in the driver's seat, especially if they're from schools that your coach and you agree are a good fit for your kid. But while it's nice to be in demand, you do have to eventually narrow down the list of schools and start making a decision on, where your child does, on where he or she would like to commit his next few years. If you don't do that and you don't make those decisions in a timely manner, the offers are just going to disappear out into first come first served land. And yes, schools do offer more scholarships than they have available. You want to think about it like airline seats. An overbooked airline, very similar process here, except your reward for giving up your seat is a bill for $100,000 that's due in 4 years. So you want to make the decision when your child knows. Make it and move on. The most reliable sign that your child is going to get an offer of a scholarship is if the school offers him or her an official visit. If your child is offered an official visit, pretty good chance that a scholarship offer is going to follow. What is an official visit? Well, it's a visit where the college pays for your child's travel. lodging, meals, and it's not just a day. It's usually a full weekend, or rarely, I guess, during the week. It's mostly weekend. Could be from Friday to Sunday. They'll house and feed your kid, and they'll house and feed. Actually, they'll house and feed you and your spouse as well very often, but they can't pay for your travel. At least that's the way the rules were in football that I'm familiar with. If the college doesn't pay for travel and meals and things like that for your kid, it's not an official visit. Offers of tickets to games are not official visits. Neither are offers to, come up to the campus and let us show you around sometime. Not an official visit. Like scholarships, offers of official visits have a very distinct sound to them. If the phrasing doesn't include the two words official visit, it probably isn't one. So there you have it. Your child has demonstrated elite athletic skills and competitiveness, as well as being a good citizen and student. He's caught the eye of some Division I or Division II recruiters, maybe started to get some scholarship offers. Now what? We'll answer that really important question in the next and the last video in this series, which I have titled, How and When to Close the Deal. Until then, happy sports parenting.